Your insiders today, Pierre, LeBrun, and Darren Dreger. One of the many great things about the Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony is it feels like almost everybody in hockey is there. And one of the rumblings I kept hearing at the ceremony was that there was concern about the arena for the Olympics in Italy, Dregs. Is it justifiable concern or premature?
No, it's real concern and justifiable in the sense that the Olympic Games are only 90 days away. And it's not just the National Hockey League, it's obviously also the National Hockey League Players Association. So you've got a stadium series that will take place this weekend in Sweden. After the stadium series, the NHL is going to send a couple of members of that ice crew over to Milan, Italy. The NHLPA is also going to have representatives there. They want a first-hand look at the hockey venue and what its status is. Are these concerns justifiable? And is there anything that can be done to expedite the process to get that venue up to snuff?
Two major gambling scandals in major sports over the last couple of weeks involving players, both baseball and basketball. Any concern within the NHL, Pierre?
Well, concern in the sense that they felt that they had GM meetings here on Tuesday that it was timely to go over the rules again with GMs about the do's and don'ts. And so Jared Maples, who's the chief security officer for the National Hockey League, he addressed GMs and about, the do's and don'ts and be careful about injury information and what the rules are. As one NHL GM told me after the meeting, that was by far the most fascinating part of the day for him, is to hear that from Jared Maples. And Bill Daly telling me afterwards, listen, we just emphasize what we've been emphasizing regularly, but clearly it was timely for everyone in that room to be reminded of being careful with all that. So it's a big story in other sports, and it's also something the NHL is keeping an eye on.
One of, if not the biggest story in the NHL so far this season, the Anaheim Ducks, first in the Pacific so far. And you wonder, this was the next step in a rebuild, and they're getting their dregs, but with them ahead of schedule, do they maybe become a buyer as we enter the trade period of the season in the NHL?
Well, maybe is the word that I would use, but there's certainly no plan to do that just yet. But you're right, they're arguably the best story in the National Hockey League right now. You look at the balance they have, you look at the scoring that they have. They're number one in the league, averaging over 4 goals per game. 20-year-old Leo Carlson is second in the National Hockey League in points. He's having a tremendous year. So it would make sense that Pat Verbeek, the GM, would want to get that 20-year-old kid locked up, but there's no rush to do that from the players' standpoint, nor is there a rush from the GM's office to try and add to what they're building right now. They're very aware of the start that they've had, but they want to take some time, look into the second half and whether an added piece is needed.
Has the Olympics approached? Mike Johnson and Craig Button released their updated Team Canada roster, if the team had to be named today. What about the Americans? There's a couple of Habs who really didn't factor into the Four Nations, making a pretty good case. Are Cole Caulfield and Lane Hutson severely on the radar for the Americans?
They certainly are on the radar. I would say Cole Caulfield in particular is absolutely, in the conversations that Team USA are having. Team USA, by the way, Bill Guerin and his group, they also met Monday ahead of the GM meetings to go over their list. But if I were to say, if Team USA had to name its team today, James, I would say Cole Caulfield will just be on the outside looking in, and which may mystify a lot of people. He leads all American skaters in goals, but when they look at him right now, they say, well, if he's not in our top 6, where does he fit in our bottom 6, where they want a little more beef, a little more defensive prowess, penalty killing, etc. So I think that's what's working against them. It's not over. The 6 weeks, if he keeps piling up goals or there's an injury, he could easily make it. Now, with Lane Hutson, I think he's further out. And honestly, it's 2 key factors. One is inexperience internationally. But the other one, of course, is they've got Quinn Hughes, Zach Werenski, Jake Sanderson, Charlie McAvoy. All those guys can quarterback a power play. I think it makes it harder for Lane Hutson, who Team USA really likes, but I think they feel it's not his time quite yet.
You talk about Canada meeting and cutting down their list, which we don't know exactly what it is. Do you think Matthew Schaefer is somewhere on there? Do you think the teenager, that it's even a possibility that he could crack the roster?
Well, here's what I would say. I asked Doug Armstrong specifically about Matthew Schaefer Monday after Team Canada's long meeting, and he said, hey, quote, it's been fantastic to watch, end quote, in terms of the show that Schaefer's putting on every night as an 18-year-old. But listen, and he also said at the start of the year, he wasn't even on Canada's radar. How could he be? He had never played in the NHL before. And now he has forced Canada's hand where they're scouting him. They're watching him play. Having said all that, and this is me, not Doug Armstrong, I still read into that, James, that it's a long shot. That first of all, they love their Four Nations decor so much, and yeah, there might be a few, one or two new faces there, but generally a lot of good D that they want to bring back. So I think it's going to be hard, but good for Matthew Schaefer for making them think.
If nothing else, let's put him in for a lock for 2030. And by the way, MJ and Craig will probably be doing their 2030 roster about 2 days after the 2026 Olympics are over. Insider trading.